Hello and welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. Kay Murray here in the studio alongside Craig Burley and Shaka Hislop, and all attention on the Premier League this weekend as it is going to go down to the final day. Who is going to win it, Manchester City or Arsenal? Just 2 points separating them at this point. The odds makers have City as the huge favourites to make it 4 Premier League titles in a row. They will be hosting West Ham. Arsenal host Everton, and we do have 2 former Arsenal players with us right now in Kieran Gibbs and Stuart Robson, one of whom will be devastated if Arsenal don't win it.
One of whom is banned from the ground.
Exactly.
Just let's get that out there now. We don't hide anything on this show, right? There's no secrets on this show.
No secrets at all. So because of that, let's go to Kieran first. Any hope at all, Kieran, for Arsenal from you?
Oh, there'll always be hope. There'll always be hope up until the final whistle's blown. But, you know, it's a shame that it's West Ham of all teams, I think. I think they're probably the worst 2 final games in this situation to have. Because, you know, it's not like West Ham would prefer Arsenal to win the league over Man City. And it's also a shame how things unfolded last week. I think no matter the outcome, it's a bit of a sour ending. But I refuse to let this painful title race mislead me from the fact that Arsenal have been outstanding this season. I think you can take nothing away from them. It's a proper team right the way through the club now. The way they've, you know, combined all aspects of the club. I think it's been fascinating from the owners with the commitment financially, to the manager and what he's done with the squad, to the medical staff, you know, with keeping the players fit. You know, you can see how many teams find it hard to compete with Man City. So, I think it's still a proud season, an amazing season from the Gunners.
And that was a party political broadcast from the Arsenal. Yeah, you're going to get your wish, Kieran. You said all season, you've said you love to see Arsenal just been behind under the radar. That's certainly where they are. Come on. Maybe a bit late, though.
Yeah, he did get his wish.
I'm happy to take a double or quits, by the way, with Stevie if he wants it.
Listen, anybody... that man's never winning a bet with anybody. Don't worry. You can throw anything on it. You can play any card for him. He'll snaffle it up. You know, there's something there in London.
It's not over.
You're absolutely right. It's not over. Kieran's talking about West Ham fans wanting Arsenal to win. We've just come off a week when Tottenham fans are saying, I mean, come on. I disagree a little bit, although it might have been tongue in cheek. The worst case scenario is having Sheffield United, Burnley or Luton are all relegated. I mean, Luton are going to have to score like 15 goals, you know. So they're having West Ham in some sense, although I was looking back earlier on in my deep dive preparation for this show, as always.
Standard. I
think it was 2015 is the last time West Ham have been up to Manchester, the Blue Half, and got a victory. So it doesn't sort of bode, unless I've missed something, and I didn't have my glasses on, so I might have.
Well, they're broken anyway.
It doesn't bode well. However, if there's a side that can sit in and play deep and is used to doing that, it is West Ham, right? So it is far from over. I was fortunate enough to be at the Etihad when Aguero scored that late winner, right? I was there with Peter Drury that day. And I never thought walking up to Manchester, to the Etihad that morning, that it was going to be anything other than a cakewalk. A walk in the park. Man United were at Sunderland. They were probably going to win. But this is a foregone conclusion. Mancini's Man City are going to roll up. QPR were almost relegated. And they were going to hammer them. And QPR were down to 10 men. Joey Barton got sent off in the first half. And yet, it was... You call it squeaky bum time. I mean, it was unbelievable. So if you think it's just there's nothing possible like that,
no, you're
then
right.
I think you would be wrong. Now, City are in the driving seat. There's no doubt about it. But the pressure, the situation, the moment, the frustrations, all these things that West Ham could do, possibly they might not. I don't know. Can play into it. If QPR can go there with as poor a team as they did, and almost ruin this title for Man City, then West Ham can go and at least have a go.
I think the big difference with that Manchester City game and performance is the fact that this was their first Premier League title, pushing for that. And that brings an added pressure to City on the day, which they don't feel now. Now they are comfortable in everything about managing.
Yeah, but it's still not a case of just turning up.
To your point, we've seen West Ham do it. I mean, to lesser teams than Manchester City, just sit in and allow you possession, and we will hope to hurt you on the break, whether it's through Michael Antonio or Gerard Bowen, through the passing of Paqueta. That's what West Ham have done all season long. That's where their successes have come from. Now, going to the Etihad, that won't change. They are happy to give Manchester City the ball. They'll sit deep, look for those opportunities, and maybe that frustrates Manchester City. But, you know, again, to give Kieran some hope, this is a long way from a foregone conclusion in itself.
Well, let's hear from Pep Guardiola on what he thinks about Sunday's opponent in West Ham. Here's what he had to say.
At the same time, we'll be easy? Absolutely not. I had the feeling we'll be Aston Villa game. We would like to be in after 10 minutes 3-0 up, but it's not going to happen. It is not going to happen. I saw enough games these 3 or 4 days at West Ham. In the few months ago, a few weeks ago, in the last game, and they have a few things you have to control, otherwise it will be difficult. So, but 2 days to prepare last game, and we are ready.
Are you convinced by that, Stuart?
I think West Ham could cause a problem. You know, Shaka just mentioned 3 players there, and they're the 3 players that are good on the counter. Antonio, I don't think he's a particularly good technical player, but he's got pace and power, and on his day he can cause defences problems. And Man City have had problems with counter-attacking teams on certain occasions. Gerard Bowen is another player that he can run in behind. He can cause problems if he's given enough room to run into. And Paqueta, he can pick out a pass. And I would take you back for West Ham many, many years ago when Alex Ferguson went to Upton Park. West Ham were already relegated. Manchester United needed to win the game. And Alex Ferguson said that West Ham's attitude that day was obscene because West Ham run themselves into the ground. I think they won the game by 1-0, and they outplayed and outrun Manchester United, who were playing for the title. That's the sort of club West Ham are. They can play well on some occasions. Other times, when you think they're going to play well, they put in really drab performances, like they did against Liverpool in the League Cup, like they did in the FA Cup against Bristol City. But this is a game I think they want to play well in, and I think they might just cause Man City 1 or 2 problems. I still think City will win, but I think West Ham will give them a tough time.
It's not like West Ham have to go there and win. I mean, if you're Arsenal, first thing is you need to take care of your own business. Mm-hmm. And if we're talking about a side that's almost in its holidays, Everton, you know, it's been a tough season for them, but they're out the relegation. All the point stuff is behind them. But you know, if West Ham get a point, Arsenal, the likelihood is they're going to win in goal difference. So Arsenal have to make sure they take care of it. Can you imagine if somehow they drop points to Everton and Man City got beat? You know, you can't. They've got to make sure they take care of their own business first, and then they have to hope. That's the situation they're in. It's out of their hands. It's as simple as that. But it's far from dead because they say if West Ham, if it's a 1-1 or a 2-2 and somehow manage to do it, they're back in the ball game. It's not the worst position to be in.
Kieran, are you confident that Arsenal can do their part of the job?
Yeah, I am. They'll be fully focused for the game. I don't think they'll be, they'll be trying not to watch City's result. But I mean, just going back to West Ham, I think Shaka's absolutely right. There's, anything can happen. My only issue with West Ham is they are susceptible to a hiding every now and then, and especially when they're, kind of on holiday. So it's, I still think City are going to do it, but I also think Arsenal will as well.
Kieran's just preparing for the worst, isn't he? He's just like, God, it's not happening for us. Let me just get my frustrations out.
Get it out of the way.
On Friday night.
It's David Moyes' last game as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
David Moyes, who's been, let's be honest, has done a good job.
He's been good.
He's done a really good job. Now, there's been I don't want to get into David Moyes, But there's been a frustration about the style. But you can't argue about possessions and European trophies that West Ham have never had. But there's this, David Moyes has been around the game a long time, right? And he's focused on what he can do with his team. And he does not want to go out with his team getting a shellacking, right? And that's his final play as the manager of West Ham United before the new guy comes in. He just, if anybody thinks that he'll be not bothered because he's leaving, is hugely mistaken. There is professional pride at stake here. He will prepare his team the same way he always prepares in a professional manner, and he will be hoping he signs out. What better way for him to sign out and say, by the way, stability in the Premier League, European trophy, got some good players coming in, and we've just beaten Man City away in my final day. Thank you very much. That's how I'd want to go out as a manager if I'm going out. Now, telling the players that and getting them to buy into it is maybe a slightly different scenario, but I don't think we'll see an unprofessional team going to the Etihad. Not one bit. It's whether they can cope with the pressure that's going to come from this Manchester City side, because it's coming. We know that.
And this season, Stuart, Arsenal have taken it to the final day. What's impressed you most about them and their run?
Their understanding of what the manager wants. Some of their patterns of play are excellent. When you actually see them warm up on the training field, they carry out certain passing drills, and it's what they actually do in the game, in and around the box. I think they've got imagination. They're much harder working. I think Declan Rice has been a great signing for them. The two centre-halves have done a really good job. And every time they take to the pitch, I expect them to play well. How they didn't play quite so well against Porto, how they didn't play quite so well against Bayern Munich, why they lost the game against Aston Villa, they're surprises to me, because over the course of the season, whether you like the way they celebrate wins, whether you like the way Arteta seems to make it all about himself, Arsenal at the moment are a very good side, and they're a club that are on the up at the moment. The fans are right behind the manager, the players are right behind the manager, the manager likes most of the players. He's made some good acquisitions in the transfer market, and he's made some good decisions about when to leave players out and when to bring players in. I think Arsenal have done a brilliant job this year.
Really impressive stats that we're looking at there, Craig, especially with the defence as well that you're seeing in terms of goals allowed, like almost half as many as the season before.
I couldn't agree more what Stuart's just said. Look, Man City's dominance for me, and I mentioned this in the show the other day, yes, it's about quality superstar players, yes, but other clubs have shown that throwing money and bringing players in isn't just the answer. Man City's dominance, both in style and in the trophy-laden cabinet, is down a lot to the manager. And I think if we're talking about Arsenal here, they've manoeuvred themselves into a position where they're currently the second best team in England. It's close. Every facet of the team is working well. Yeah, they might need somebody who can lead the line a bit better, and there's always areas of your side. But you have to make sure, in my opinion, whether you're Liverpool, Arsenal, Villa, Spurs, Man United, whoever it is, that you're in a position when this Spanish manager leaves Manchester City to get in there. And because this City ability to steamroller teams isn't always going to be there. They're going to lose De Bruyne, they're going to lose some of these senior players, they're going to lose their manager. It's coming. And when that comes, they're going to be weaker, not stronger, in my opinion. And I think Liverpool are maybe in that scenario as well. And I think it's important that you're ready to pounce. And for me, unless Arsenal do something absolutely stupid, when this City side starts to unravel, and it will at some point, you need to be there. And also, if you look at Arsenal's side, it's a relatively young side. So unless they do something and make some stupid decisions, they, for me, are in pole position, if City weaken, and I think they will, to get in there and arguably become the strongest team in the Premier League.
To your question, Kieran, I think the most impressive thing I've seen from Arsenal during the course of this season is how this team maybe has grown or matured. And I'm talking Arteta, who I was very critical of early in the season. I think you've seen him settle down on the sidelines. I also think that when you look at other players in this squad, David Raya is for me, is not the best goalkeeper in the league. I know the stats suggest otherwise. I'm not talking about stats. I'm just talking about talent, pound-for-pound goalkeepers. Yet he's been able to put up the numbers that he has. Kai Havertz is a signing that we questioned a lot in the summer. Yet he has matured into this team, into an integral part. Now, again, I think there are a lot of better players in the league, but he is at least delivered when needed, as needed for Arsenal. And that, for me, has been the most impressive thing about Arteta and how he's managed this whole campaign. How this team has steadily grown and gelled to a team that has now pushed Manchester City to the very last day of the season.
Having said all that, one word, who wins the title?
Manchester City.
Craig?
City.
Stuart?
City.
Kieran?
Well, I would just be silly not to say Arsenal.
One word. Why did you do that, Kieran?
Come on.
I'm going to do it because it's the final week. I'm going to say Arsenal. Burley, don't hate.
And that's why you won't be banned like Robbo.